sepsis. Yes, sepsis is also a very important part in the chapter 1, and it has got some guidelines as well to review. So coders, what is a sepsis? A sepsis is a potential life-threatening condition caused by body's response to an infection. So what it happens, it usually starts with a local infection, and this infection will be caused by a bacteria. So as you can see in the image which has been provided, so in the step 2, the bacteria will enter into the bloodstream, and naturally, what does the body do? Body will respond to that bacteria, and our immune system will fight back the infection. And in a worst case scenario, the bacteria and immune cells might spread throughout the body, and it will cause an uncontrolled inflammation, which might lead to an even organ damage and even death if left untreated. So that is what sepsis is all about, and it is really a serious condition which requires immediate medical attention. So what is severe sepsis? A severe sepsis is the sepsis with an acute organ dysfunction. And what is a septic shock? It is a form of a severe sepsis where organ dysfunction involves cardiovascular system. So these are more severities of the sepsis. So coming to our coding part, underlying organism, the sepsis and severe sepsis require a code to identify the systemic infection. Yes, if you find a scenario on sepsis, first thing which you have to look is whether the organism which caused the sepsis is known or not. So if the organism is unknown, we would code A41.9, and if the organism is known, it will depends on the last few characters. Last two characters will be specific for the infection which is called. So A41 point, the remaining two characters, it will define the organism that causes sepsis, and the guideline number is C1T1A3. So let's move on to the next guideline on severe sepsis with acute organ dysfunction, and this requires minimum of 2 codes, and your sequencing order is as follows. Code first the underlying organism, as I said in the previous slide. If the organism is known, it would be A41 point. Last two characters would be more specific for the organism, and A41.9 for a sepsis unknown organism, unknown causative organism. And the second code would be R65.2. 0 would be for the severe sepsis without septic shock, and R65.21 would be for severe sepsis with septic shock. So it depends upon the documentation, and important thing for you all to note here is that this R64.2 ICD is never sequenced first. It would be sequenced only after the organism or the sepsis code. And the third code for the organ dysfunction. So if the as you can see, the severe sepsis with organ dysfunction, acute organ dysfunction is a title. So if the severe sepsis is with organ dysfunction, the third code would be for the organ dysfunction that's involved. And the guideline for this is C1T1B in your book, ICD book. Now let's move on to the next guideline, C1D2. Septic shock with organ dysfunction, and this one also required minimum of 2 codes. Code first the underlying organism, A41 or A41.9 if the organism is unknown. Code second R65.21 for septic shock. Once again, R65.21 is not sequenced first. It's never sequenced first. The third code would be for the organ dysfunction or kidney failure if it involves any kidney failure, and fourth code would be for any associated organ dysfunction. So these are the guidelines for coding sepsis. Now I think it's time to test your knowledge on sepsis and the related guideline. So here we are having a question. What code are assigned? Your options are A41.9, R65.21, option B A40.1, J15.3, R65.20, option C A40.1, J15.3, option D A41.9, J15.3, R65.21. A patient admitted to the hospital with streptococcal group B pneumonia with severe sepsis. What ICD codes are assigned? So, coders, I would give you around 2 minutes to solve this scenario, and we will be coming back and discussing the answers. Okay, coders, that's time, and I was having a look into the chat to see your answers. So I see that there's mixed response in the chat. So this is going to be a teachable moment. Let's highlight the keywords for this scenario: streptococcal group B pneumonia with severe sepsis. So coders, let me ask you a question. What is the diagnosis which we are having? The patient is having a severe sepsis, and it's a streptococcal B pneumonia with severe sepsis. That's a final diagnosis which the patient is having. So we are having a local infection as well. So if you look into the guideline C1D4, it states sepsis or severe sepsis with a localized infection. Yes, we are having a localized infection. Yes, we are having a severe sepsis as well. Under these conditions, what should we do? The patient admitted for a sepsis with a localized infection. The underlying systemic infection is sequenced first, then the localized infection, then if applicable, the code for severe sepsis are 65.20, and finally organ dysfunction. So this is your sequencing order for this scenario. So let me look. Is a sepsis type specified? Is the organism specified or not? Let me have a look into the chat. Is organism, the sepsis organism, causative organism mentioned? in our scenario or not? Yes, sir. I see the answer. Yes, specified. Exactly. So A41.9. What is A41.9 coding for? A41.9 is coding for a sepsis unspecified organism, while in our scenario, it's mentioned streptococcal B pneumonia with severe sepsis. So the streptococcal B group B is the specified, I'm sorry for my tone, is a specified organism. So A41.9 is the wrong answer. So I can eliminate option A and option D here. So that's eliminated. The remaining two options are B and C. Looking into the sequencing order, now I have to code for the sepsis with specified organism. That would be A40.1. Yes, sepsis due to streptococcus group B. That's done. What comes next? Next comes a localized infection, and that would be pneumonia, right? J15.3. And what comes next? Yes, over here. Next comes R65.2, and we are also having a severe sepsis in our scenario. So that would be R65.23. And option C is not coding for severe sepsis, while it was necessary because scenario states that we are having a streptococcal group B pneumonia with severe sepsis. So the sequencing order would be A40.1, J15.3, and R65.20, which is the code for severe sepsis without septic shock. How are you feeling about that one? Are you feeling good? So coders, always look and follow the sequencing guidelines. Never code R65.2 first as well. So if you follow the sequencing guidelines, you will reach into the correct answer. Okay. So let's do some exercise here. You can name the sepsis code, which is going to come up in the next slide. And I would give you 1 minute to pick up the ICD codes for these conditions. And let's see. Okay, coders. Your first exercise, acute renal failure. What is the ICD code for acute renal failure? Your time starts now. Yes, I see the answers coming in the chat now. It's N. Yes, N17.9 is the ICD code for acute renal failure. Now let's move on and let's try next one. So sepsis, non-organism. What is ICD-10-CM code for sepsis, non-organism? So I see few answers in the chat. I'm expecting few more answers coming up. Come on, coders, let's make this exercise interactive. So there you go. The answers are now coming. So the sepsis known organism, it is going to be A41.X, depending upon type of organism that causes sepsis. Remember, coders, so if the organism is known, the last characters will define the ICD code. Yes. So next one coming up next, severe sepsis, NOS, that is unspecified. Severe sepsis unspecified. What is the ICD code? Yes, the ICD-10-CM code for severe sepsis unspecified is going to be R65.20. So that is what for severe sepsis unspecified. Yes, next task. Severe sepsis with septic shock. I repeat, severe sepsis with septic shock. That's okay. Take your time, coders, and answer back in the chat. Great work on this one. I'm so happy seeing the responses. So I am sure that you know what's the difference between severe sepsis without septic shock and severe sepsis with septic shock. So R65.21 is ICD code for severe sepsis with septic shock. For severe sepsis without septic shock, it would be R65.20. Great work, coders. I have a few more for you. Sepsis unspecified. If the organism is unknown. What is ICD code for sepsis unspecified? Great work on this one as well, coders. So you are catching up now. So great work. The answers are flowing. The correct answer for this is A41.9. So if sepsis organism is unknown, the code ICD-10-CM code for sepsis unspecified is going to be A41.9. And if the organism is known, it would be A41 point. The final two characters would be X, and final character would be X, and it depends upon the specific organism that causes sepsis. So is it clear, coders? Are you feeling good so far? Because I am going to bring up a scenario for you. Yes, let's see how are you all feeling about this one. What is the ICD-10-CM for the below scenario? Your options are option A, A41.51, R65.20, option B, A41.51, R65.20, R68.83, R06.82, option C, A41.51, R68.83, R06.82, and option D, A41.51. A patient arrives to the ED with fever, chills, and rapid breathing. The ED physician diagnosed the patient with Escherichia coli sepsis. So you have got 2 minutes to answer this one. Let's see after 2 minutes. So job well done on this scenario as well, and I feel like you all answered it pretty fast and didn't need much time. So the correct answer for this scenario is going to be option D. And let's highlight the keywords: fever, chills, rapid breathing, and the ED physician diagnosed the patient with Escherichia coli sepsis. So what are we having here? We are having the guideline C1D1A, which states that yes, requires minimum one code for coding the diagnosis of sepsis. And what did the doctor diagnose the patient? The doctor diagnosed the patient with Escherichia coli sepsis. So my question to you is, coders, is the sepsis specified or unspecified? Okay, okay. So you all are saying it is specified. Exactly, it is specified. So what else is the patient having? Patient is only having Escherichia coli, E. coli sepsis. Is he having any severe sepsis or severe sepsis with septic shock? Yes, it is not documented. The patient is only having sepsis here. Exactly. So following the guidelines, like let's start eliminating the wrong answer. Let's look into the option A and B. Option A and B is coding for R65.20. And what is R65.20? From the exercises which we have done, we know that R65.20 is coding for severe sepsis without septic shock. That's why I asked what the patient has been diagnosed with. Is the patient diagnosed with a severe sepsis? No. So there is no need to code for R65.20 in option A and option B. So it's both are wrong. And looking into the option C, it is coding for R68.83 and R06.82, which is a code for chills without fever. That is chills unspecified. So if we are having a E. coli sepsis which has been diagnosed, do we need to code a chills, fever, rapid breathing chorus? Do we need to code them separately? No, we don't need to code them separately. Exactly. We don't need, because they are signs and symptoms of the definitive diagnosis, which is E. coli sepsis. So I can eliminate the option C as well. And the correct answer is option D, A41.51, which is, yes, over here. It is sepsis due to Escherichia coli, which is E. coli. So option D is the correct answer. So if I knew this guideline, I knew the sequencing order, I could have eliminated all A, B, A, C, and C on site. I would have easily picked option D. So how are you feeling? Are you feeling confident on sepsis? Because we are okay. I see feel good. Yes, because we are now moving away from sepsis.
Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, happy coding!